Hi, I'm Mark Cunningham with Grace Property Management. So with all the things going on in the legislative world as it relates to rental housing, did you know that last year in 2020, the Colorado legislature passed a bill that requires landlords throughout the state of Colorado to accept Section 8, or government subsidized, to be accurate, government subsidized housing. So if you're a landlord in Colorado, you may no longer say to an applicant, no, I'm sorry, we don't take subsidized housing. Or no, I'm sorry, we don't take Section 8, and it's no longer called Section 8 legally, but that's the terminology that many landlords think through. Now this bill, it's HB 201332, and we'll put a link to that actual bill in this video if you want to go read it yourself. But what it does is it defines the concept called source of income. Source of income is now defined as a protected status. So think about it this way. Just like there are certain protected things that you may not legally discriminate against, race, color, religion, children, there are certain things, disability, there are certain things that you cannot legally discriminate against. Well, added to this list is now source of income. So for example, in the past, if somebody applied to rent a property, if we didn't potentially like the source of income, and I'm just making this up, but if you're like, you know what, I don't like the fact that you work at Village Inn. You know, I don't like Village Inn. I had bad pancakes. I was there last time. I'm denying you based upon the fact that your income comes from Village Inn. Now, that really doesn't happen, but you could do that legally. No longer. So now sources of income are not relevant when qualifying a tenant, but that includes subsidized housing. So here's what the law actually says. The bill introduces discrimination based on source of income as a type of unfair housing practice, discrimination for source of income. And it goes on to say this. So this is how it defines source of income. Source of income is defined to include any source of money paid directly, indirectly, that's important, or on behalf of a person. So in other words, if someone's paying their rent on their behalf, you can't discriminate upon that. Including income from any lawful profession, so it must be a lawful profession, or from any government or private assistance, grant, or loan program. So it's pretty broad. But if you're a landlord, you have to remember, this is very, very important. You must consider Section 8 or any type of subsidized housing, including money given to that individual from a family member, if it's verifiable. Now, there are a couple exemptions. Exemption number 1, landlords with 3 or fewer units. If you're an individual landlord managing your own property, and that's important, then you can be exempt if you have 3 or fewer units. If you're a landlord with 5 or fewer units, you can refuse housing choice vouchers for single family units also. It's a second carve out, and we realize it's a little bit complex. So that's why we're going to put a link to that in there. Now, if you're a client of Grace Property Management, rest at ease. Don't worry, we've got this covered. We're putting this in place. We've already put this in place. This is effective January 1, 2021. So as of that date, all landlords in Colorado, minus the exceptions, must consider rental housing. Now, one quick other thing to be aware of, because we've had a few questions about this. In 2020, our legislature did also pass what they call the CROWN, C-R-O-W-N, the CROWN Act of 2020. That's what it's called. CROWN stands for Creating a Respectful and Open World for Natural Hair. Now it's HB 20-1048. We've had a few people reach out and say, hey, is this real? Is this legit? And yes, it is. But what it does is it also defines your hair, as a protected status. You cannot discriminate against somebody based upon any type of hairstyle or how they're doing their hair that way. So some people thought it was a joke. It's not a joke. It's very real. It relates to race discrimination is how that comes into play. But you want to be aware of that, because that is now another protected status in the state of Colorado, and we will link to that in this video. Being a landlord is getting more and more complicated every day in Colorado. But we're grateful to our clients. We're grateful to our tenants and our renters. Appreciate them all very much. But if you have questions, if we can be of assistance, feel free to consider us a resource. Jump on our website, rentgrace.com, where you can find all sorts of information about these and other things as it relates to property management. But we wish you a lot of success.